Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Huck. Today we are doing my last book haul of 2024. I'm filming this in December, but it may not go up until January, but these are 2024 books. They will be counted and tracked within my 2024 buying, even if this is technically going up in 2025. But these are the books that I bought in the second half of the year. I haven't been buying as many books in 2024, and so I've just not been doing a lot of book hauls. I did one for the first 6 months of the year, and so here we are to do one for the last 6 months of the year, and I have 12 books to talk about today, and I have read a lot of these, which I'm very pleased with. So I'm gonna break these up just into like the books that I've already read, and then the ones that I have not read and are going to roll over onto my TBR. All right, so let's start with the books that I have already read, other than it being in that category. These are in no particular order. But first up, we have The Fireborn Blade by Charlotte Bond. This is a fantasy novella that is the first book in a series. I know there's at least a second book. I don't know if there are other books after that one, but this is adult fantasy. It is about like a lady knight dragon hunter. In it you get both like following her plot line as she is hunting down this dragon, and then like discovering that there are maybe some more nefarious plans going on that she was not aware of. But we also get some, not flashbacks, but like excerpts, I guess, from kind of like this book about dragon hunting lore. So we get a little bit more context around dragon hunting, what are the role of dragons in this world, all of the many ways that people can die while dragon hunting, all of those fun things. I didn't love this one, but this is not a review, it's just a haul. But I picked this one up. Next up we have The Spell Shop by Sarah Beth Durst. This is a cozy fantasy that I feel like has just been all over BookTube this year. It's been very popular. And this is following a librarian who works in like the National Library in the capital of her fantasy world, and really just hides away from the world and focuses only on the books that she loves. And she does have her trusty assistant who is a sentient talking spider plant. But one day the library is attacked as part of a revolution, and she escapes, taking along some of the most important spell books to her, and she ends up going back to her hometown, which is on a small island. And while she is there, she tends to just kind of hide out and never talk to anybody, but she ends up getting more involved with the people from the town and people she used to know, and really reconnecting with them and discovering like the joys of community. And along the way, there's like a little bit of romance in it. There's a little bit of magic. Next up, we have Mirrored Heavens by Rebecca Roanhorse. This is the third and final book in the Between Earth and Sky trilogy. The first one is Black Sun. I reread the first two books before picking up this final one. But this is a fantasy series that is inspired by the cultures of pre-Columbian Americas, and there are sirens and crow gods and sun priests and all of these really interesting magical people, and I really enjoy the world that she's created in this. I really love some of the characters, so it was fun to have the final conclusion to this trilogy. Another series that I got the next book in is the Alchemical Journeys series by Shauna McGuire. So this is the third book, called Tidal Creatures. I believe there are going to be 5 books in this series, but I'm not totally sure. I think it's supposed to be 5. But this is a very weird fantasy series that is set in essentially like modern day, but there are alchemists who are doing some weird stuff to try and harness the forces of the universe so that they can have like ultimate power. A lot of their plans revolve around getting to the Impossible City, which is this sort of magical city that only certain people or beings are able to access. And each book kind of follows a different strategy that the alchemists are using to try and access this city. Usually we are following characters who are some kind of manifestation or personification of an aspect of reality, and then through that like personification, the alchemists are hoping to like gain control of them and get to the Impossible City. So in this one we are following moon gods. So there are multiple moon gods from different cultures, and they all kind of share the responsibility of, you know, being the moon. However, one day one of the moon gods is murdered, and so they have to figure out who murdered this this moon god, and of course they are tracing it back to the alchemists. So we are following like some of the other moon gods as they are trying to figure out what has happened to this moon goddess who died, and we also get cameos from other characters that we've encountered from previous books. But yeah, so this is the third one, and I guess there will be more after this. Then I picked up Starling House by Alex E. Harrow. This is one that I've been meaning to get to for a while. I mean, it came out last year, so not that long. But even so, I have really been meaning to get to this one. And in this, we are following our main character, Opal. Yes. Who lives in this small town that kind of feels like it is under a curse. Like things are never really going right, and everyone's lives are kind of like under this shadow, especially under the shadow of this one like company that I think is a mining company that like controls their town. Opal, her mother died a few years ago in a car accident where Opal was also in the car and almost drowned. But since then, Opal has been taking care of herself and her younger brother, Jasper, who she cares for very much. And she wants to give him a better life. She wants him to be able to get out of this town. She's had odd jobs around town, but one day she is offered a job at Starling House. So Starling House is this huge mansion behind like, you know, a fence, behind gates. And the people who live there have always been very mysterious, and this is such good money that she can you know, save up. She can send her brother to a great school. Like it's something that she feels drawn to this house anyway, and then also she's like, this is kind of an offer I can't refuse. So she goes to start, you know, cleaning the house, and through that, you know, she builds a connection with the owner of the house, but also discovers more about the house's history and some of the mysterious happenings connected to it, and maybe why she's been so drawn to it. I also picked up Don't Let the Forest In by C.G. Drews. This is a YA contemporary fantasy horror, which is following this group of friends. They're twins, and then they have a best friend who are all going to this boarding school together. It starts out coming back from, I think, winter break, coming back from some break. Something happened in the last semester, but we're not quite sure what it is. Our main character, Andrew, just knows that his twin sister, Dove, had a fight or a falling out with his best friend, Thomas. And he is feeling very like pulled in the middle because they refuse to talk to each other. But in addition to these interpersonal things going on, he discovers that there is also a more like a larger fantastical issue going on, because Andrew writes a lot of like horror short stories, and then his friend Thomas draws the monsters. But suddenly those monsters are coming to life in the forest outside their school, and Thomas has been battling them every night. Andrew gets involved, and the two of them are kind of going through this process of not just fighting the monsters, but trying to figure out how they are manifesting, what's really going on, and also dealing with all of their, you know, teen interpersonal stuff and maybe some surprising feelings that they have. After that, I also picked up Annihilation by Jeff Vandermeer. This is a very weird sci-fi that I have been meaning to read for a long time because it is always pitched as very like atmospheric sci-fi, very like nature vibes to it. So I've been wanting to pick this up for a while. This was in my sci-fi reading vlog that I posted recently, so I'll link that in the description if you want to know more of my thoughts on Annihilation. And then the last one that I have already read is The Land of the Living and the Dead by Shauna Lawless. This is the third book in the GAEL Song trilogy, and I read the second and third book in December. I read the second book and then went right out and like bought this third one because I was like, I have to continue on. I have to know what happens. But this is historical fantasy set in Ireland in, I think, the 11th century, and is like around the time when Vikings were coming into Ireland, and especially in Dublin. We're following two main characters. In this book we have a couple of other perspectives, but still really our two main characters are Gormla and Fola, who are from two opposing magical races who are kind of in hiding from the mortals. They are also, both of these magical races are dwindling because they have been fighting and killing each other for so long. And so we are following the two of them. Gormla is very like ruthless in her pursuit of her goals, especially in pursuit of power and control, whether that is control for herself or control through the men in her life. And then Fola is a healer who is very caring and compassionate, and in the series she starts out very sheltered, somewhat naive, and over the course of the series she gets more exposure to the world and really comes into her own. But yeah, I have been loving the series, so like I ran out to get this last book and I've already read it. It was great. Okay, so those are the books that I bought that I've already read, and then I only have a few that I have not read. So the first one is Any Human Power by Manda Scott. This is a sci-fi thriller. Manda Scott has previously, I think, only written really historical fiction or historical fantasy. I think historical fiction. But she has now broken into sci-fi thriller. The way that she has described this, honestly, I don't even know what the plot of this book is, but the way that she has described kind of her thought process behind this book is that she's described it as a through-topia. It is not dystopian about a terrible future. It's not utopian about an already perfect future. It is a through-topia that is meant to be kind of a proposal, I guess, or guide for how to get from where we are now to a better future, kind of in story format, which is such an interesting idea to me. I know that I like her writing because I have read her historical fiction, but like sci-fi thriller isn't usually my thing, but even so, I'm so interested to read this and very curious about just this whole concept of a through-topia, so I'm really interested in this one. Next, I got Lefay by Sophie Keach. This is the second book to Morgan Is My Name, so it's the second book in the Morgan Le Fay trilogy. And I read the first book, Morgan Is My Name, also in December, and like immediately ordered this book. I really enjoyed Morgan Is My Name. I really want to get to this second one. However, the third book is not out yet. Theoretically, it's coming out in 2025, but there isn't a release date yet. And so I'm a little conflicted about whether I'm going to read this one like really soon because I like have the momentum and excitement from reading the first book, or if I should hold off so I can read it a little bit closer to the last book, so that there won't be a gap there. I don't really know, but I'm so excited about this. But this is a Arthurian retelling following kind of like the origin story of Morgan Le Fay, and really centering her story and putting her as the sympathetic character. So I'm very excited about this one. And then the last one that I got was one of my most anticipated releases of the year, which is The Shadowed Land by Signe Pike. I'm so excited for this. Another Arthurian retelling. This one is a little bit more Arthurian adjacent because it is historical fiction following Langareth, who was a queen in Scottish history, who was the sister of the man from history that a lot of historians believe inspired the story of Merlin. So it's a little less directly connected, but it is following her story, and you know, very little is actually known about her, so kind of imagining what her story could be. The first book is really just focused on Langareth. The second book expands to another character perspective, and then I don't know where this third one is gonna go, but I'm so excited for it. I mean, it's been like 4 years since the second book was published, so I'm gonna have to reread the first 2 books to remember what's happening before I read this one, and it's probably gonna be another like 2 years before the last book is published. So those are some big time gaps, but even so, I'm so excited for this. It's a lot thinner than I was anticipating though. This is a lot thinner than a lot of the other books in the series, so we'll see how that goes. Also, they changed the cover design, which I have mixed feelings about because I did not like the cover design of like the hardcovers for the first 2 books. And this is certainly prettier, but I also feel like it's kind of bland and doesn't really tell you much about the book. And also then it doesn't match. So, which I'm not like a stickler for matching covers. I like it when they match, but I'm not like obsessed about it or like super upset about it. Anyways, I have mixed feelings about them changing the cover design because I do like this better. But those are all of the books that I got in the second half of 2024. And I am so excited. I'm so happy that I have already read a lot of these books, so they're not going on to my TBR. And I am really excited for the 3 that I haven't already read, so I'm really looking forward to those. And they are ones that I really feel like I'm going to read soon, so that is also very good. But thank you all for watching, and until next time, bye.